I know you sent me a message on Twitter this morning, and you said if I wanted to have you on, you would prove to me why you can beat Robin Carnahan in the fall. But my question is, and this is where we'll get into some of the issues here in just a second, can you beat Congressman Blunt in now less than a month?
Right. Oh, absolutely. You know, you look at the records. You know, I have 14 years of balancing a budget here in the state government. I've passed legislation that reduced the size of government and saved the state money. You know, he's voted for things like TARP and cash for clunkers and earmarks, and we're headed for bankruptcy. So what type of experience would you like to have representing you in Washington?
Well, I mean, I think that's an interesting question, and we can get to that in just a couple of minutes. But let's talk about the realities of politics just for a moment. How much money will you be spending between now and primary day? Do you have, because you know, Senator Purgason, that this, you have to get the message out. People have to know who Chuck Purgason is. For better or for worse, the Blunt name is well known. A lot of people don't like the Blunt brand, and I think that that's represented in some of the polls sometime. But how many people across the state of Missouri know who Chuck Purgason is?
You know, we're making inroads on that. We have over 450 volunteers signed up in the campaign. I think that silent majority of people are waking up out there and realizing that we can't keep doing what we're doing in Washington and expect different results, and by sending the same old people up there all the time. And I think that people are looking for a new leadership other than the Blunt Carnahan leadership that's put us into a hole that our children and grandchildren, frankly, aren't going to be able to dig out of.
So you would link Congressman Blunt with Robin Carnahan?
I think that what has happened in Washington is both parties have failed because, you know, Congressman Blunt, when he was in leadership from 2000 to 2006, he helped add $1.4 trillion to the national debt and $8 trillion of unfunded liabilities to the national debt. And what we've been doing is we've been sending people that haven't stood on principles of our party. And, you know, Republicans, believe it or not, are a party of balanced budgets. And you would have expected that a party of balanced budgets, when they were in leadership, we would have balanced budgets, but instead they became part of Washington rather than part of the solution.
I had you in the studio a couple of months back, and we went over a little bit of your background. But for people who are not familiar with who you are, Senator Purgason, tell us a little bit about yourself and your history in the legislature.
Well, you know, I have a real job outside the legislature. Can you imagine that? You know, I'm a small business owner who balances the budget and tries to go out and stimulate the economy by growing and hiring people. And for 5 months out of the year, I figure out how state government stands in the way of that. So I come at it from a small business standpoint first, where economic development is very important. And I think that what I've seen from government is, frankly, they're not doing things very well, especially when it comes to managing the money that you and I go out and work hard for. And hopefully I can take those same business experience to Washington.
So what would be your number one priority? Would it be getting a handle on the growing deficit and debt?
I think absolutely you have to balance a budget. You know, when you're digging yourself into a hole, the first thing you do is stop digging. And then you find out ways that you can go out and spur the economy. And I think that revitalizing the tax code that doesn't punish people for how much they earn and how hard they work, that's a disincentive. You've got to be able to empower small businesses out there to hire people and encourage them to do what they do best, and that's grow a business and hire people and stimulate the economy. So we've got to get the power out of Washington and return it back into individuals and small businesses across every state.
Can you do it without raising taxes?
I think spending is a problem. Look, what part of broke do we not understand? You know, we're spending we have a $13 trillion debt, you know, that we've rung up so far. Spending is out of control, and we have to have people that are willing to stand firm and say no to spending and allow people to keep their own money and go out and stimulate the economy and grow a business.
Chuck, when it comes to the ideas of reducing the deficit, do you adhere? I mean, I talk a lot about a friend of mine who's in Congress, who's Congressman Paul Ryan. He's a reformer. He has some ideas called the Roadmap for America's Future on reforming those entitlement programs in particular, because you can touch on earmarks and all this other reckless spending. I don't disagree with you that there's a lot of reckless spending. We have to stop spending. But really, would you agree that it's the entitlement programs?
Oh, absolutely. You know, I've I've been on Medicaid appropriations for 14 years, and absolutely the entitlement program is we can't continue to pay for it. And frankly, look what it's doing to the foundation of our country. It's destroying the two-parent family that we need as a country to be able to survive. And what we have to do is get a control on spending, because right now we're passing debt on to our children and grandchildren that they're not going to be able to pay for. So it must be controlled and contained.
What other issues would you say that are out there where you agree or disagree? I guess disagree is what I want to focus on with Congressman Blunt. Are there major issues? I mean, I know that you've cited his leadership role in the reckless spending that went on during the Bush administration. I think that's a problem, quite candidly. But are there other issues that you go to where you say, I differ on these issues with Congressman Blunt?
Oh, absolutely. I think the TARP program was a big one, because what that did is there's no doubt there would have been pain if TARP hadn't been passed. But what Congress did is they transferred the pain from the people who caused it to the taxpayer. That's you and I. And we didn't address the problem. And right now, what has been fixed that caused us to do TARP? Absolutely nothing, because what we did is we put a Band-Aid over a sore that continues to be a long, lingering cancer inside of us, because we failed to address what the issues are. Their answer was to throw money at it, and I believe in a free market system, and I believe that getting back to the basics of balanced budgets, we have to do that. And I think that is the defining vote, that anyone that believes in the free market system should not have voted for.
But there are a lot of conservative Republicans who voted for TARP, because if you and look, in retrospect, you might be right, but we were on the verge of what people thought was going to be a financial collapse. There was a lot of frightened people across the country and in Washington.
Oh, absolutely. But, there was 26 Republicans, I believe, and Congressman Blunt helped sway those to vote for TARP. That if my figures are correct, that's over 200 people that thought it was a bad idea and a bad direction that we need to set for the country. And it is basically this. Do you believe that bureaucrats can spend money more wisely than the people that earn it? And that was the real question. And Congressman Blunt made the decision that a government bureaucrat was spending money more wisely at that time than the people that earned the money. And I believe in a free market system and not government rewarding winners and losers in what's supposed to be a free market system.
Chuck Purgason is my guest state senator. He's running for the Republican nomination for the United States Senate for the seat that is currently